Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another episode of InDesign Tuesday. My name is Terry White, the worldwide design and photography evangelist for Adobe. It's my pleasure to be streaming to you live today on this rainy Tuesday afternoon here in Atlanta. So with that said, today, if this is your first time watching, welcome. I'm streaming on multiple platforms. I will try and keep up with the chat. I'll try and keep up with your questions. But I'm on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Twitter. So shout out to all the folks that are joining me, wherever you're joining me from. I see Valder, Peter, Colleen all the way from South Africa, Nick InDesign, Bobby, Nadia over on YouTube. I see Tom and Victoria so far on Facebook. And let's see if I see anybody yet. Nope, I don't see anybody yet on the other platforms, but I'm sure they'll join in. So with that said, also if you're watching the replay, thanks for watching the replay. Those views also are very important to me as well. But today we're going to dive into a fan requested topic. I love it when people request topics because it makes my life easier. I don't have to think about what to show. I just have to come up with the content to show it once you give me the idea. So the fan requested topic, I did this on my Instagram. So if you're not following me on Instagram, follow me over there on Instagram at Terry Lee White. I did it on my story. I just said, hey, people, tell me what you want me to teach you about or whatever. And I just left it an open-ended question. And this person said, I want to learn about anchored objects. Like, cool. I would have never thought to do that as a topic. So today it's all about anchored objects. Shouldn't take too long. Famous last words. But let's go ahead and dive in. Dave Clayton, thanks for the book. I did receive your book, I think it was yesterday. Thank you. And Jerome, welcome. Deb, welcome as well. So with that said, Dave Clayton, InDesign expert over there on Facebook, he wrote a book about how to do this in InDesign. So you should check out his book. So with that said, let's go ahead and dive into today's topic. I'm going to switch over to my computer. I've got InDesign just already launched, but I'm going to go ahead now. I know why there was no one on Twitter. I hadn't launched it yet. I'm going to go ahead now and dive in with the anchored object example that I have set up for you today. So with that said, again, InDesign is now open. I'm going to go ahead and just create a new document. We need at least a page to show this on, but I'm going to do something a little different here. I'm going to give you a few tips along the way. So I'm going to do a 9x11 wide. I'm going to do 4 pages. I'm going to make them inside. I want to make them facing pages. Yes, inside, outside margins, even though I'm not going to change the margins. And I'm going to go ahead and click create. So that'll give me 4 pages with page 1, page 2 and 3 next to each other, and then page 4. But the difference is I want all the pages next to each other. So I don't want a page 1 as a right page and a page 4 as a left page. I just want 2 facing pages for the whole spread. And to do that, it's an old trick in the Pages panel. You go to your Pages panel and you go to the flyout menu for the Pages panel. There's a check that you can uncheck that says allow document pages to shuffle. If you just uncheck that, then you can rearrange the pages so that, I'm trying to do it here. You can rearrange the pages so that they are next to each other. Otherwise, if I hadn't unchecked that, they would just shuffle around. I'd still have a right page and a left page at the end, and I couldn't put those 2 pages next to each other. Now I can by turning that off. Okay, so that was just a quick little bonus tip there. We're going to do one more thing. Hang on, let me zoom back out. While we're in the master page, I'm going to double click on the A master, and while we're there, we're going to go ahead and create a couple of frames as well. We're going to link them together, create them, blah, blah, blah. All right, so with that said, I'm going to go ahead and grab my type tool. Start it right about here at the 3-inch mark on the ruler and make a frame. Since I start with the type tool, we know we're going to make that frame for text. Since I want it to be the exact same size on the other side, I'm just going to hold down my Option or Alt key and drag it over so I get a perfect duplicate of it. There we go. So now I have that one and I have that one. Take the 2 and link them together. Even though there's no text in them, I'm just going to go ahead and grab my link tool and link them together. Now, you could have done this with in the page setup, there is a checkbox for like your default text frame, so that it would already be on the master page, but I'm setting this up from scratch. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and double click on page 1, which should have that frame. It's there. I see it. Now, I can't click on it because it's on the master page. I can either unlock it or place text into it. Then that will automatically unlock it. But I'm just going to go ahead and unlock it. So I'm just going to do my Command-Shift-Click. That will unlock both of them because they are linked together. If you ever wanted to see that link, as I always talk about, you can go to your view. You can go to your extras and you can show your text threads. That way you can see that they're linked together. So we're going to continue that linking down here to this one and over to this one as well. You can even hold down a keyboard shortcut so that you can just keep clicking so you don't have to keep clicking the in and out ports. Okay, so now I've got my 4 frames linked together. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to go into the first frame. We're just going to, I don't have any text that I care about, but we're just going to put some placeholder text in there. So I'm just going to go to my type menu and fill with placeholder text. Now I'll just put the sample text in there. We're also going to go to edit. I'm going to come down to spelling and we're going to turn off the dynamic spell check because we know all of those words are not in the English dictionary. So there's no reason for it to keep checking for them. Okay, so now I've got just some random lorem ipsum type text in all my frames. I'm also, and by the way, when you do a fill with placeholder text, you're going to, so Glenn's asking, what if I have to do this for the whole book? Question mark. Well, it depends on what the this is. If it's have the text frame all the way through, then like I said, there is a place in the page when you're setting up the document to check a box and it will put the frame on every page. If you're talking about whatever this is, something different, I don't know what the this is that you're meaning. Anyway, when you're using fill with placeholder text, it fills the frame perfectly. So that means that whatever my default font was, which in this case is Myriad Pro 12 point, it filled frame 1, 2, 3, 4 perfectly. There's no extra space. There's no overset. And that's great as long as you're not going to insert something inside of it. Because if you insert something, it's going to push that text down. So I'm going to delete some of this extra text that I don't need anyway. I'm just going to delete a few paragraphs of this just so I have some room to manipulate the text that's there. Okay, so now that I've done that, now let's talk about what is an anchored frame or an anchored object to begin with. So I'm going to zoom in and let's say that I want a graphic. Let's grab my type tool. Let's say I want a graphic after this line on that empty line. Now, we already know you can just place an image or create a frame and put it there. But if I do that, if I just grab my frame tool and I create a frame, and we can even go ahead and put an image in it for now because we're going to use it anyway. Let me move this out of the way so we can get our image. There we go. And I'm just going to grab one of my new stock images there. We'll place that in and we'll use the brand new content-aware fit to fit that content down. Great. So we know we can pick this frame up and put it right here. And it will sit there. And of course, we can do a text wrap around it so it's, the text is not running under it. But the problem is if you add more text at the top, the text is going to go down and that picture is going to sit there. So if that picture is associated with whatever that text is that you put it between or around, then that means you're going to have to constantly keep moving that picture up and down, left and right, next page, whatever, if the text is constantly in flux, if it's changing. And that's why we would use an anchored object, because the anchored object would go with the text. It'd be treated as if it were text. So I'm going to move this outside for a minute, and I'm going to show you 2 ways to create an anchored object. I'm going to show you the old-fashioned way, because I have to. And I'm going to show you a better, newer, more modern way to do this. So the old-fashioned way would be to simply just take your image, or whatever your frame is. It doesn't have to be an image, by the way. It could be a text frame. And cut it. So we'll just cut it, which will put it on the clipboard. We'll go back to our type tool, and we'll just put our cursor where we want that object to be, and we'll just paste it. Now it's an anchored object. It's inside that text. So we could even do things like center it. We could right justify it. We can left justify it because it's treating that whole box as one giant character. So if we zoom out and we were to add some more text or something at the top there, our image moves with the text because it's anchored. That's what an anchored object is. That's the old-fashioned way to do that. Cut, paste, it's anchored. You can even rearrange it. You can do a text wrap around it, whole 9 yards. But that's not the most modern way to do things. All right, so let's go ahead and put it back up here. Let's go to it and take it out. I'm going to cut it back out. I'm just going to paste it back where it was. Okay, so we'll just move it back over here. Now, I said that was the old way to do it. Then that means there's a newer way to do it. So what's the newer way? The newer way is anchored objects, first of all, can be inside the text and stay anchored, but they don't have to be inside the text to be anchored. And what I mean by that being the old way, that's the way you would have done it back in the word processing days. Today, with modern page layout like InDesign, an anchored object could be, I want that object to be associated with that text, but I want it to stay outside. So if the text moves, I want it to move outside. That's why I created this space on both sides of the page for images that are associated with the text that's on the right-hand side. So let's say that we were to align this, we can pull out a guide, but we get it nice and aligned and we say, hey, this should always stay next to the word on or in front of it. So you'll notice that there's even a new widget for it on the frame itself. If I zoom in, there's this new blue handle. That hasn't always been there. This new blue handle is relatively in the last couple of years of InDesign. This was added so that you can drag that little widget into your text to make an anchor just that easily. So if I just pick that up, that little blue box, and drag it over to my text, see, it's giving me a cursor. It's letting me know, hey, wherever you put this, that's where I'm going to put it. And now it's been anchored. And it gives me that little blue dashed line to say, oh, I'm anchored. I'm in that spot now, no matter what. Okay, so now let's zoom out and test it. If I were to go back up to this, at the beginning of this text, and I were to go in and start hitting returns again, new lines, look, it moves. Because it is anchored to that spot. And you still can do whatever you want with the frame. If I want to move the frame over to the left, if I want to make the frame bigger, if I want to do any of those things, it is still anchored. So it will still continue to work with and move with the text. That's the more modern, better way to do an anchored object. Now, here's the other thing. Let's say that you add a bunch of text. You add so much text that it pushes it off the page. Well, we know that as we're adding, here, let me get out of this for a minute. As we're adding more text in this frame, it's being pushed over to this frame. So what happens if we push it too far? All right, let's push it. Keep pushing it. Remember where the anchor is. It's above the word on. If I keep pushing it, we're going to run into an issue. And that's the issue. Is that it did move with and stick with the word on, but now it looks weird because it's still to the left side of on. And technically that wouldn't be what I'd want. Where would I want it to be? I would want it to end up over here. Because if it moves to a frame where there's space on the right side, I want it to move over on that side automatically. Now, yeah, I could pick it up and move it over there, but that would kind of be the old-fashioned way. All right, so let's go back up. Let's put it back where we had it, or put it close. How can we fix that? Well, you have, just like you have anchored text, anchored objects in your text, you have anchored options as well. So if you go to your object menu and you come down to anchored object, you can get to the options for the object you selected. So the question is, Sandy's asking, can you unanchor it? Nope, Sandy, once you anchor it, that's it. It's anchored for the rest of your life. You cannot ever unanchor it. You have to delete it and install your new computer. No, I'm just kidding. Of course, you can unanchor it. That's what the release option is. That's unanchoring it. Anyway, let's go to options. And here's one of my favorite checkboxes in this box, or this dialog, relative to spine. That's telling it what to do depending on the spine of your document. The spine is that thing, that line in between the two pages. So relative to the spine, here we go. Let's click OK. And now let's do the same thing. Let's continue to add some more space. Gets weird. It is going to get weird if you push it down to the bottom, so that you would have to manually adjust. But once you go past it, boom, puts it on the other side. So I can keep going. And if I were to even keep going all the way to where I add so much text that it pushes it to the next page, it better be on the left side, and it is. All right, so that's the better, more modern way to do an anchored object. Now, let me click OK. Yep. Let's delete all those extra carriage returns, put it all the way back up. Okay, what else can we do? Well, just because it's anchored outside doesn't mean it has to be all the way outside. Sanders saying 19 years of Adobe skills and still learning, aren't we all? Let's say that I want to do something a little bit more fancy. Let's say I want to move this over, maybe there. Well, now I do want kind of a text wrap to go around it where it kind of overlaps in that spot. So I could go to my text wrap options right here in the control panel, and I could choose the wrap around the bounding box. And if I do that, it should wrap it around the bounding box in that spot. And if I want more control, I can bring up the text wrap option, the panel, to get more controls over how it's going to wrap. So now, again, same thing. If I were to do this, it moves with it, great. It stays wrapped. Once it gets to the point to where it won't fit, that's a problem you would have to solve manually, but here it goes. Okay, I'm not sure why I keep getting that, but anyway, here it goes, and I don't know what I'm hitting to give me that warning. But anyway, it moved it over to the other side and even wrapped the text on the other side. So text wrap is to the object, not to the to just how it's positioned. So if I were to move it further in, it will wrap further in. It will just keep wrapping. Now, what I don't like, let's say that I don't like the fact that it's so close to the object. That I would never want to deal with, will never want to have. So if I go to my window menu and I bring up my text wrap options, they always pop up on the other monitor. There we go. I bring up my text wrap options. I could say that, hey, I want some more space on the sides of this. So give me more space so it's not so close. And again, you can still pick it up. You can still move it around. You can still kind of get it positioned where you want it to be. So I can do something like that. Maybe not so much space. Let's anchor, let's uncheck that, and let's say that we do want a little bit more. We do want a little bit more. There we go, from the bottom. The bottom's fine, but I don't want so much on the, and I can even do the top as well. There we go. There we go. So I'm not worried about so much top and bottom as I am the left and right, and so that way I can kind of get a better looking visualization. Hopefully I can squeeze that. Can I squeeze it? Can I squeeze it? Still need some more. Hang on. There we go. I was just trying to get it so that wasn't leaving so much of a gap on the top and bottom of it. And I'm going to have to just kill the space of the top and bottom. There we go. There we go. All right. The leading in between the lines will take care of the spacing above. Now I have the spacing on the left and right as well. Okay, so your text wrap panel, that will help you finesse the text wrap that you're doing. Now, like I said, an anchored object does not have to be, it does not have to be a graphic. So if I were to make a new frame of just text, and I were to do, if I were to do a pull quote, all right. Do that, and let's make it nice and big, and let's make it bigger this way. There we go, and we can do the same thing. So any frame has that blue handle on it. So if I do that blue handle and move it all the way over here to the beginning of whatever that is, FACE, face pattern, whatever that is, then that is now anchored to that spot. And if I want it to be inside, I can pick it up, I can put it inside, or I can put it partially inside, and then do a text wrap around that object. Let me bring up my text wrap panel, and we'll do that, and we'll get a text wrap around that object as well. So now that is going to move with, and I would still have to go back in and set my my anchored options so that it aligns to the spine. So I want my anchored object options relative to the spine. There we go. And also let's pick it back up and move it where we want it. There we go. Okay, so now that will stay where it is, and this one will stay where it is no matter what happens to the text. So if I were to say, no, we can pull that text back up, both objects should move. Move the text wrap panel, we should see both of them move. There we go. Or that. So that is what anchored objects is all about. Again, there's no limit. You can do anything. Images, text, images and text, things that are grouped together, images that are just colors, drop caps, whatever it is you want, you can make it anchored and have it move around with your text. And that's the whole point of an anchored object. Now, one more reason why you do anchored objects today, because again, if your layout is going to be your layout and you could just put things wherever you want, why even bother with anchored objects? There's one more reason, and it's a solid reason why you do it. If you're making an ebook, an EPUB, anchored objects are golden inside of an EPUB because EPUBs flow with the size of the screen, and images that are fixed don't necessarily work so well in an EPUB if the text can move around independently of the images. You kind of probably want your images to stay with the story that you're telling. So if you're doing an EPUB or an ebook, you definitely want to consider anchored objects for that reason, is because it will just stay better, stay with it better. All right, this EPUB point is a good one. Yes, thanks, Glenn. I'm glad you approve. All right, so with that said, I hope that you got something out of this today. I hope that you learned something about anchored objects and the reasons why you would use it. Again, fan requested topic over on my Instagram. So, and you don't have to go to Instagram and leave me a comment of a topic, but topics always help because then I do what you want to learn versus me having to come up with the topics all the time on my own. So with that said, cheers everybody. Thanks for watching. We will catch you on the next one. I shouldn't say stay tuned, but Friday is my photography show. So episode 2 kicks off Friday morning, 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern, and we're going to be doing more Lightroom. There's also new photography updates that just came out today too, all the photography tools and products. So I'll kick off the show Friday with those updates, and then we'll continue learning Lightroom where we left off. All right, so with that said, cheers everybody. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one. Bye, everybody.